So can you really become fluent in Spanish within a year? Quick answer is yes, but I'm going to show you what that means, how you should and shouldn't practice, what you should and shouldn't focus on, what Spanish classes tend to get wrong, and why I consider my methodology that I use to accelerate my Spanish learning was just better and more efficient, and some realistic expectations. What does it mean to be fluent? What can you expect to get out of it depending on what you put into it, and a bit more in this video. So hope you like it, and let's get into it. I know that it sounds really gimmicky, the whole fluent in a month, fluent in a year, and all of that stuff, and I try to be as real and authentic as possible in my videos, I really do. So a lot of it is just based on my own personal experience of learning Spanish. So after just a few months of learning, I was able to have real conversations with native speakers to where, and a lot of these were on the phone, by the way, so I would, find people online to talk to, whether it was private tutors or using language exchange apps that would connect me with native speakers learning English. And I would have full-on hour-long conversations with native speakers in Spanish. And I could talk about a lot of different things, pretty much anything I wanted to talk about. And they had a real understanding of how the language worked, how to form sentences in different tenses, even if it wasn't perfect, even if I made mistakes, even if I had to look up some stuff and some vocabulary words from time to time, I was able to keep the flow of the conversation going. So think about just after 2, 3, or 4 months, being able to do that and how cool it would be if you just focus on the right thing. Are you going to understand 100% of what native speakers are saying after a few months? Obviously not. And listening comes last, by the way. So if you feel like you're stressing yourself out over, oh, I'm not the best listener, I can't understand anything and everything a native speaker's saying to me, that comes last, okay? So don't freak out if you don't think that your Spanish listening skills are up to par yet with where you want them to be. It'll come with time. I'd rather you be able to speak efficiently first, because imagine this, you might be studying a lot of vocabulary words and a lot of grammar and conjugations and whatnot, but if you're not able to actually speak with the native speakers, if your conversations sound very robotic and they don't sound natural, and you think that it would be miserable to be a native speaker talking to you, then you need to change something. You need to change your strategy. You need to put more focus on the right things. You need to put more focus on speaking, on immersing yourself in the language, and treating Spanish like a language. A lot of that for me just came with, how am I able to talk in Spanish? Well, obviously, I've got to tackle the hardest parts of the language first, which is obviously, if you know anything about Spanish, is the verbs. Verbs change and conjugate in so many different ways depending on the subject, depending on the tense. So I figured I'm not going to have a real conversation unless I'm able to conjugate in the past, in the present, in the future, in the conditional, in the whatever the heck the subjunctive is. How do I use direct and indirect objects, and how does that pair in and attach to different verbs and conjugations? And so all of this, what seems like overwhelming stuff, I wanted to just get out of the way as soon as possible. And what classes get wrong so often is they put so much emphasis on grammar rules, on concepts, and not enough on just figuring out how to use the language. You'll get so caught up on studying just enough to pass an exam that you're not really concerned with, how does this actually apply to what I want to say in Spanish and my conversations that I want to be able to have with people. A lot of people don't move on in classes from just the present or the past tense, or they think that they have to master it before moving on. And in reality, you have to just focus on getting a good understanding overall of all of the verb tenses and conjugations. And then think about it this way, even if it's not perfect, at least if you want to be able to say something, or if you understood kind of what someone is saying, you don't have to learn a whole new concept. You already have a good idea of how to conjugate that verb, or at least why it's said the way it's said that way. And then it makes your Spanish learning a lot more efficient, because you're able to pinpoint exactly where to go to get better and how to form your sentence in the right way. And it's a lot less confusing, even though it might not seem that way. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyways, realistic expectations, if you follow this method, and By the way, I've got a free training where I show you more in detail my 3 strategies on what you should focus on in Spanish and what you shouldn't focus on, along with how and to not to practice. Click on the link in the description in this video to sign up for that free training. And also at the end, I talk more about my full paid Spanish program if that's something that you're interested in. And by signing up for that free training, you get a discount off of that program as well. And that program is called A to Z Spanish University. And so what it does is it shows you every grammar rule in the way that I like to explain it, where it's just straight to the point. Every single verb tense and conjugation, where you can learn how to talk in every possible tense. It's literally everything you need to know about the Spanish language in a very straightforward and quick way, so that within just a couple of months you can know everything there is to know about the Spanish language, have a good understanding of it all. You get weekly live sessions with me. It's the all-in-one program for becoming fluent in Spanish within a year, even within a few months. I've had students that are speaking Spanish with native speakers after just a few months, and I mean really having fluent conversations. And so that was my next point. So again, sign up for the free training with the link in the description. Sorry to ramble on about that. It's just, I really do want at least get you that information from the free training, whether you sign up for the program or not. But if you do want like a clear guide and roadmap, those are my resources. Now, again, back to the realistic expectations part of this, I have seen a lot of students of my own, after just a few months, they're speaking and I mean really I can have a full-on conversation with them in Spanish. They've traveled to Spanish speaking countries. They've joined these I've had one student, Sarah, who joins these dance classes and talks with native speakers in it. I had one student, Tracy, who works as a nutritionist, and a lot of her clients and patients are Spanish speakers, and so they're able to have these conversations with them in their own native language. And it's just, imagine if you're able to do that. Like, imagine you're able to just talk to any native speaker, whether you're at a Walmart, whether you're in Colombia or Argentina, wherever you are in the world, even here in the United States. I mean, like a fourth or a fifth of the population is Spanish speaking now, or at least will be within the next decade or so. And just having that power, it feels like a superpower. It's like an ability just to understand Spanish and communicate with a whole new group of people, and it's so cool. We have to change the way that we go about learning. I'm not saying that studying and books in the traditional way is bad. I think that it has a lot of benefits. But notice that there are so many people who spend years and years of learning Spanish, studying and doing the traditional way, and they can't defend themselves in Spanish. They can't communicate after years of studying and learning. Whereas you have people like myself, like a lot of my students, and like a lot of people you just see on the internet who are at least, maybe not what you consider to be fluent, but maybe after just a couple of months, you're like, okay, clearly they know a lot of Spanish and they're able to talk to people. Because at the end of the day, what is a language other than just being able to talk to people and communicate and use that language every single day? That to me is one of the coolest things. So no, maybe after a couple of months, you're not going to be, understanding anything and everything. Maybe after a year even. Maybe after 2 years, you're not going to consider yourself where you want to be. And everyone commits different times and dedication to learning Spanish. Some people are fine with it taking longer. Some people are very impatient and hyper focused on it, like myself, who, I throw anything and everything at it. And obviously I had breaks when I was learning it, so don't think that I was 24/7 doing it. I mean, it would just be maybe even just a few minutes of my day every day, but I'd have always a conscious effort to try and translate as much as I could in my head. I would have study sessions where I would dive deep into concepts like verb conjugations and direct and indirect objects and verbs like gustar and all of that stuff, but my day-to-day was more of just talking to people, translating in my head, trying to figure out how to use Spanish in my day-to-day, and that goes a long, long way. And that's what people don't do in class. Like, you show up to class, you study enough to pass an exam, and then you forget about it the rest of the day. No, Spanish, you have to trick your brain into using that language, and to where if you don't use this language, you're not going to be able to function. And so you have to kind of trick your brain into making Spanish a real part of your life. Sorry if a lot of this video seemed like I was just rambling on, and I hope that a lot of the stuff I say makes sense. It's hard when you come at it with this approach to really just convince people that it will work if you just focus on all of the verb conjugations first. You focus on how to form sentences. You focus on just using the language itself. And then maybe this gives you a better idea of realistic expectations. I do believe that if you focus on that and you focus on speaking, you focus on verbs, you focus on just using the language as it is, as a language, and I know I say that so many times in this video, I'm boring myself. Yes, after a couple of months, you can be actually speaking to native speakers. Within a year, you can be fluent. You can understand more than 80% of what people are talking to you about. You can form sentences and talk about pretty much any topic that you want to talk about. Maybe you have to look up a lot of the, vocabulary going into that conversation, but you can get by in almost any circumstance, and you can have conversations wherever you are with whoever you want in Spanish, and it's such a cool feeling. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel for more. Check out that free training where I give you more of a clear roadmap. It's a lot more broken down than just this video of me rambling on. It's got a cool presentation, and you can learn more about my Spanish program at the end. Click on the link in the description to sign up for that now. Give the video a like, subscribe for more. See you in the next one. Ciao.